So he went 90 to the house. They got called for illegal formation. They backed up to the 5, and on the next snap, he went 95 to the house. And you were just like, there's no way.
Best high school football player coach that you've ever laid your eyes on was who?
I can't say one. So there's a small group. We've had this conversation before.
I love this, though.
They're Andrew Luck, watching him throw the ball, and I'll tell you, his footwork was good, but his back foot would always come off the ground. That was always weird to me. Like, okay, I got to see this live. But the way he threw the ball, the way he managed the team, he looked like an NFL guy playing against high school kids. Christian McCaffrey's, it's like, you speed up the film, it's like Charlie Chaplin. Just running all over the place. It's like a joke. It's like the defense guys were in on it, saying, okay, we're going to make you look really good.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody hurdle 5 guys on one highlight film. Like, it just never happens. On the defensive side, Andrews Peak, watching him in high school, was
massive,
just massive, and the feet of a ballerina. I'm watching this guy at a high school kid at 320 pounds get out on screens, and these little kids, they're trying to avoid him, and he's step for step with them and just crushing them. And he crushed that guy and pop up and go hit somebody else. So those guys kind of really stood out watching him on film.
I love that. The tape that blew you away on a kid in high school, who was it over the years?
Wes's was like that. So here's what it is. So you got this guy that's about 5'8", kind of barrel-chested, not the fastest guy. And so, and he's the leading rusher in the state of Oklahoma.
Oh.
And so you go through that tape, and on the tape, he's got, and although punt return was his better event, he has like a kickoff return or 2 for a touchdown, some long punt returns, interception return for a touchdown. And then he's got 70 yards rushing, 180 yards receiving. And then at the end of it, he kicks like a 49-yard field goal to win it. And it's a playoff game. It is but so you're going through that whole film, you're going, wow, what a good play. Oh, if only he was bigger. Oh, man, that's a good play. If only he is a little fast. Oh, geez, that's a great high school play. If only it was this. If only is that. And because of the size and speed and you're trying to talk yourself out of the thing, but then, of course, he jumps off the screen. And he literally pretty much came to our place, demanded a scholarship. He says, listen, at Oklahoma, I'm in state. I'm going to Oklahoma State, so it's in-state tuition if I have to walk on. If you give me a scholarship, then I'll come here. So staff, talk, whisper. So, we figured, well, good team guy, play some special teams. He started every game he was ever in. Left as all-time leading punt returner in the history of college football. Leading receiver in the history of Tech at the time. Don't know if he still is or not. But but he jumped out and it's did everything. I mean, there wasn't an aspect of the game that he didn't impact. I haven't seen a guy play as many positions as effectively as he did.
I actually saw LeBron at St. V.
Play football
before he stopped playing football. This was like sophomore tape. He was annihilating people out there. But
what did he look like on a football field?
He looked like a giant, a man amongst boys that he would terrorize.
He was a wide receiver, right?
Yeah, I saw him actually playing some defense too. I remember him playing some safety. So I mean,
Well, hold up, he wasn't on the last. He was playing safety.
I saw him out there running around. I mean, and that was that was interesting to see because we all knew who he was, and it was like, is this guy actually? How long is this guy even going to play? So we didn't even really watch the whole tape.
Yeah. We've been fascinated by the best high school tape that you've ever evaluated. Like a guy that when you were watching the tape, you step outside the office. Hey guys, you got to come and see this guy. Someone that just jumped off the tape.
Johnny Manziel.
Whoa, nice. Nice.
So when we recruited Johnny, he was at Kerrville Tivy outside of San Antonio, and I still distinctly remember this. He ran quarterback draw on the 10, sent 90 to the house. They got called for illegal formation. They backed up to the 5, and on the next snap, he went 95 to the house. And you were just like, there's no way. And it was like, I'm like, wait a second. And you kept running it back, and it was just a human highlight. And then the question was, well, how big is he? And so we had him come in and came to camp. But he was offered at some places as a wideout at DB. We were the only ones who offered him as a quarterback. And then A&M came in late of his senior year, but he was committed. We had him and Marcus Mariota both committed to us at Oregon. Wow. We had them both in the same camp, and in the camp, the two of them just competed their tails off. Obviously, Marcus can run. They both could run and throw, and I was like, holy smokes. But it was one of those kids. They talk about him that he can hit a golf ball like 340 yards. Mm-hmm. But as a high school football player, he was as dynamic a kid as I've seen on tape, and just did it all. Could run, could throw. It was like watching a like staged movie thing. Like, come on, he'd scramble for 10 seconds, and then all right, I think I'm gonna throw it, and then rip off a laser or 50-yard dart. But there's a few that, and I know we talked about it earlier, but that's the one that jumped off the screen when I remember just watching him and going, and I couldn't believe no one else had really offered him. Yeah. It was like, you got, and in this day and age, I think a lot more people would offer him because with the Kyler Murrays and those guys coming
Bakers
along.
And all those
Bakers,
guys.
Yeah.
Go back to Joey Bosa, what you saw from him on the high school field and how quickly he was able to translate that once he got on campus.
Yeah, so I first met Joey the beginning of his junior year. He had already had a few offers. Alabama and Florida State, I think, offered him as sophomore. And you just see this guy walk through the door as 15 years old, and he's already physically elite for that age. And he was just a tough guy, went hard. He was a little bit stiff, but he was just blowing people up, and he was dominating on the field. So he was really an easy answer. And then, his dad having the genes he did, and then you look the homework and his family. So I had actually left Florida to come to Ohio State right when Joey recruitment really started picking up. And he was one of the first guys I told Coach Meyer, like, hey, we really need to get on this guy. And then come to find out his mom's a graduate of Ohio State. His uncle was a first-round draft pick at Ohio State. So with all those ties, and his mom was like, Nick's going to be the easy one. Joey's the one you're going to have to convince. And so I always tell Joey to this day, we only took you to get Nick. So obviously we're glad both of them were Buckeyes, and they're killing the NFL as well right now.
One of the guys that I was around that was on your campus was Ezekiel Elliott. And so obviously you were there when Zeke was there. What was he like as a Buckeye in terms of like the it factor and what he brought to the table?
Zeke was one of the hardest guys that trained. He just has this unique genetic material that he's been blessed with. But the thing you noticed with Zeke when he was a freshman is that he was the hardest and most violent player without the ball. So when he was trying to block the defensive guys, he was trying to hurt them. And so you knew right away, and even if you go back to the Purdue game, when he was a freshman running down on kickoff, he lays a guy out. So you knew he had this in him. And he was just so freaky athletically, state champion in hurdler. He had athletic parents that played football at Missouri, and his mom was a track star at Missouri. So he had all this genetic intangibles, and he also had the toughness and it factor of the way he trained as well. It was just after his junior year of high school, and he may have had like 4 or 5 offers, and so I just threw on his game tape, watched him. I'm like, wow, this kid's pretty good. But he only really had like Missouri offer and a few middle tier schools. And so I hit him up, him and his parents, said, hey, we'd love to have you on campus. They're here that next weekend. They came right away for a junior day. And so they had a great experience, and then it kind of felt like, hey, this kid may want to commit. Are we sure? Because at the same time, there's this other kid. He was Mr. 5-star, number 1 running back in the country, who wore number 27 for Eddie George. And so you have the 3-star Ezekiel Elliott and the 5-star guy. So we have the decision to make because Zeke wants to commit. So you start really studying him, and he's playing in lower level Missouri ball. So it's kind of a hard evaluation, but you just saw the way he ran and how athletic and fast he was, that you knew he had the potential. Now, did we know he was going to be the best running back in the NFL at that time? No way. But I'm glad it worked out, and he's a great player and a great person.
Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson is the one.
I haven't seen that one.
Allen Iverson was all world.
Really?
All world football player. And they say football was his first love.
Really?
Yes.
The same guy who had been recruiting on the East Coast like the 10 years prior, he's from New York and was coaching back there. He still had the tape of Allen Iverson.
The second person that said that.
Allen Iverson, yes.
That guy could have played a number of positions. I mean, can't argue with what he did playing basketball, but man, and he used to carry the tape around and say, you got to watch. This is Allen Iverson's high school tape. You know, he would put it in and wouldn't tell anybody. He's like, you know who that is? Oh, we should recruit him. Oh, yeah, he's off the market.
Yeah, he's unavailable.
Yeah,
Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Who was the best high school football player you've ever seen?
It was at South Fort Myers High School. A guy by the name of Sammy Watkins. He was unbelievable. When I watched him practice one day to guys, because he had a little bit of length on him, but so fast, and had great hands. And I was like, man, this guy is going to be unbelievable. And I think when I saw him, he hadn't committed to Clemson at this point in time.
Yeah,
but he's the best high school player I've ever been around or seen.